There is a handful of drivers who are on the wets. This is going to be another interesting race, and I suspect this is going to be the case throughout this entire day. Unsure of the conditions. It's going to be interesting. It's juniors, it's qualifying heat A and B. They come out onto the circuit, and Thomas Kinsey and Sascha van Bad Bosch start on the front row, both on the slick tyres. Velma Swan, question mark, thinking on the wet tyres with Cathal Clark, who is on the slicks, from Thibaut Ramekers and Zach Green on row 3. Georgian Assar and Sandro Perez round out the top 4 rows, from Daniel Delakian and Louis Kuman, who round out the top 5 rows. Clovis Nougare and Joseph Smith round out the top 6 rows.
Row number 7, we'll see Bertram Sach and Arthur de Donker. Then we have Eva Dorenstein and Matteo Dovergne, followed by Austin Gale, Isaac Helps, Eden Spanswick, Elia Weiss, Yanis Dubois, Wouter Berganu, and Matt Corby.
Now, I'm seeing on my timing screen that Vilma Svan and Daniel Dalakan have not left the pit lane. I'm not sure if that's strictly true or if that is the case, because I saw them there on the grid, but they've not crossed a timing beam. Rain still falling quite heavily at the moment. And, well, if Vilma Svan is not out there, I didn't see anyone else on wets. The only other driver I saw on wets was Walter Berganu in the 69, who is at the back of the grid. What if he wins this race?
Anything's possible at this stage. We saw a late start as well for Thibaut Ramakers, who is going to be starting from P5 on the grid. Ramakers, don't forget, the winner of this year's IAME Winter Cup. Not so lucky in Zwaira, but one of the drivers. And you can see the P15 right now on the P grid. This is indeed Vilma Svan from AD Motorsport. And can he get going? Hopefully, this will be the case. Yes, that's always good news to see a driver able to join the pack at the back end of it, unfortunately for him. And this will be a big blow because he was due to start from P3 on the grid and is going to have to do so, but at the very back end of the field.
That's crucial, though. But like you say, now that's given the opportunity here to Wouter Berganu to not have to worry about Velma Swan, who would be at the front of the grid.
And Thibaut Ramakers is at the back end of the grid as well. So we saw that right indeed. But Ramakers, I thought, in the meantime, had picked up the pace and joined his position, 5 on the grid. But not at all, actually. Thibaut Ramakers, one of the favorites in the junior class, is at the back end of the field, as well as one of his teammates from VDK. Let's try to see who that is with the white crash helmet. It's outside of your picture. This is the number 50 of VDK that was gonna start from the back end.
What happened? Oh, there. Ooh, sorry, just off screen.
Yeah, some of the trouble for the 29. Matt Corby from VDK is going to be starting for the back end, as we had some trouble for the 23, wasn't it?
No, I think it was the 29. 29. Phelps, I think that went off the track. So there we go. This is going to be a real shake-up here because, well, the majority of the grid is on those slick tyres. The track's completely soaked. There is, as far as I'm concerned, there are 2, maybe 3 cuts out there that are on wet tyres. This is going to be one to watch, and you can see the crowds have accumulated. The grandstand, despite the fact that it's raining, has filled up as well. Umbrellas are out. And, well, you're going to have to be careful into turn 1 here. And the thing that these drivers are going to have to worry about, who are on the wet tyres, they're starting at the back of the grid. They're going to have to try and get through the field without getting a nose cone penalty. It's a lot of cuts you've got to get past, and they're going slow and you're going faster, and the chance of you collecting and going into the back of one, you know, is very, very high. Granted, it's only a 5-second time penalty that you would receive from that one, and if they're on wets and they can get away more than 5 seconds, they could be okay. It's one of those things. Who knows what's going to happen in this one? It's a roll of the dice as we go in towards turn 1. Thomas Kinsey and Sascha van Bad Bosch, and away we go down. No, it's a formation lap. It's a false start. They're going round again, and I suspected that they didn't have enough. They weren't alongside enough. Yeah. So again, they just can't get the traction, can they? Yeah, the formation of the grid was not deemed good enough by Martin Bean, our race director, who decided to send the drivers for an extra formation lap, the first one of the day. And it comes as no surprise, looking at the conditions that have been really, really decreasing in terms of grip. It's quite, you know, relatively cold outside, but not so much so far. The main concern is the rain, and it keeps on falling onto the karting de final. Welcome to Marienburg. And is that an airbox that's come off? Yeah, by the look of it, at least it's a big piece on the side, just between turn number 4 and 5. And I think that's our leader, Thomas Kinsey, who might have dropped it. I'm not too sure. That Yanis Dubois has come into the pit lane actually as well. Daniel Dalakan's not come out, so he's stayed in there. Now, who did that fling off? Coming through, there's the 15. Oh, and ping, straight off.
Wilmer's van, actually, who was late to the party. Remember, he was able to pick up some places and was back on his starting position. But that will certainly be a source of concern.
Well, that won't be able to continue, I'm sure, will it not?
Yeah, will it be worth of a mechanical flag or not?
Yeah.
It went flying, that's for sure. Maybe that will be a concern for him from a mechanical point of view. From a safety point of view, that's up to the marshals to be deciding about that.
Well, he stayed out. He's there.
Ramakers is back as well on the inside. Yeah. You can see the VDK driver.
So that's lucky that they were able to get back into their positions and spin at the background. Absolutely inevitable. It's just there's no grip out there whatsoever. You can't say no to the drivers on this one. You know, it's so difficult. Luckily, they were going slow enough that they get right back onto the grid. Here we go then, back into the formation start. Kinsey and Van Bad Bosch, green flag goes down and away they go in towards turn 1, and immediately Vilmos has the traction and dives to the inside. This one is all Vilmos here, and you can see the 16 going through as well. That is George Nassar, who I think is also on the wet tyres, and off the track goes the number 23. That's Ethan Spanswick for the MDL team, and that will goeth no further as the slick tyres go on, and yeah, that is a complete retirement.
And outside of your picture, a couple of...
and straight off again and into the barriers. Off 16. It goes. Clovis Nugaray there, who has got no traction to try and get away. Can't get any help from the marshals if he needs to get back on the track. He successfully does so, but now right at the back of the grid.
And some of the drivers outside of your picture as well. On the right, you can see this is Spanswick, isn't it? As some others, the 69 battling along. Oh, and the 43 going wide a little bit. The 45 it is going wide. This is Bertram Satch, one of the privateers with the Falcon chassis, just on the N3 to the hairpin. A couple of drivers were struggling with the grip into the opening lap and the first few corners. But once again, look at that. It's actually going out back and forth at every corner. The 69 as well, keeping himself, Bertram Satch, on the grid, and is one of the few, indeed, with the wet tires on, and you can see him at ease in those conditions.
Yeah, you can start to see who has actually gone on the the wet tires now. Eva Dorothen has also gone on the wet tires. 12 positions gained up into P3, as Botterbergen now, who I think over one lap has gone from the back of the grid into P4. Crosses the line, is the next driver to cross the line. So you can see only 4 drivers in this one who I think have gone for the wet tyres. Everyone else is on slicks and is just struggling to find any form of traction out there.
So that's indeed Bergan, 69, my apologies, up into P4 as a warning flag being picked up by Louis Comain, the 58, who is not having the best of time, obviously. Comain, who's in P7 at the moment, and the 17 out of the race and out of the track. This is green, unfortunately. Hopefully he will be able to get back onto the track, but he seems to be stuck at the moment. Zach Green, the British driver, was P8, and he actually went off in turn number 1, and another driver with a Birelot machine out in turn number 3. We might actually see a lot of those offs until the end of the race. Only lap 2 out of 8 in this very difficult qualifying heat. Thibaut Ramakers, number 3 on your picture. Look at the way he's climbing the curb on the inside of the hairpin, trying as much as possible not to lose momentum, because if you step out of the racing line, especially in that part of the track where it might be actually wetter than somewhere else, then you're completely lost and you find yourself up in the grass. He's battling along here with the 41 to McKinsey, your pole sitter, struggling for grip. There's none of it actually for those two on slicks. Seems like by the look of it, we're having a battle, but in slow motion pretty much, as they're very careful about where they put their wheels.
It is indeed a slow motion battle. Another spin there further down the order. That was the 50 of Matt Corby for the VDK Racing team going around. But yeah, oh, there's another one off the track. Again, this is to be expected all the way throughout this race. It's the 30. It's Joseph Smith who's off the track for Mick Barrett Racing. And again, he's going to try and get that one back out into the circuit. But like you were saying, yeah, this is a real test for these drivers. You know, you start to learn, and you'll sit here as, oh, you just thought there he was going to go round and round and round. And as soon as you lose the back end on slick tyres on the wet, it's just not going to stop Timo Ramm, because they're holding that cut and just clouting those inside curbs. Off the track once again, the 50 back off Matt Corby, who tried to get it going and is once again off the circuit. And yeah, not good at all. Warning flags going out as well, but he's going to try his hardest to get that one going. This is a real shake-up for these drivers and not what they want to see. I mean, they're using their slick tyres, Crucially, they're not using their wets. If they need to use their wets later on, they'll have better wets than the 5 drivers in front. So, you know, there is that benefit. But back to these two, you see the 2 different racing lines. Now, you've got your dry racing line, you've got your wet racing line. The wet racing line, you would take the outside line, use all the dirty part of the track to get the grip and to cut back in on the inside. And then you've got some drivers who would like to dive to the inside, latch on the inside curb and use that to pull themselves around. The best way really to learn how to drive a kart on slick tyres in these sort of conditions is to go to a corporate kart circuit on the outside circuit in the rain on slick tyres and just drive laps and laps and laps on slick tyres in a corporate kart. If you can keep control of one of them, you can keep control of one of these on slick tyres.
You know, one driver, as we're going to see the replay of what happened in turn number 3, Travis Nugarade going around. Yeah, the contact actually between the 2 teammates. And the number 60, Nugarade, bam, in turn number 3. As Nugarade is still with us in this race, but he tumbled down the order in P12. But on the inside goes the 57. This is further back. Sandro Perez, actually, we lost sight of him as it was so competitive in Spain on home soil. Not quite the conditions he's certainly used to, going around the inside of Gale and Nugarade as well.
There on your screen, Eva Dorensen started this race in P15 and is currently leading by 1.6 seconds at the end of lap 4. Well, you got to think the Falcon team made the right call on that one, didn't they? Yeah, wet tyres, please. I think that's going to be the best course. I'm looking out there, over there, and it's tipping it down.
Yeah, it is. And talking about driving on the wets, you know, one driver who kept on doing the same practice in wet conditions, in the worst sort of conditions, on slick tires back in his day, as the 57.
Sandro
we
Perez.
might actually lose Sandro Perez in this race. One driver who, you know, became one of the kings in driving in the wets in Formula 1 is Max Verstappen himself. And back in the day in Genk, whenever there was some rain, him and his father, Jos Verstappen, went out on slick tires and practiced for hours and hours. And that's the key to success. Now,
you could just see there Sandro Perez being told, no, don't try and pull the kart back onto the circuit. You're in a dangerous spot. And again, this is happening here, straight off the track. Sasha Van Bad Bosch in the number 4, started this one on the front row, off the circuit again. And you could just think, yeah, these karts are flying off. You've got to be careful when trying to get it back on because your back's facing the circuit. And if anyone else comes through, you know, it's just too risky to try and get that one back on. Here, though, Eva Dorensen, who is just, while driving away, has lapped nearly the entire field. The only people that haven't been lapped are the 4 that are actually on the wet tyres. Absolutely incredible scenes here.
Incredible scenes, typical of Mariembourg, I would say. It's not the first time and might not be the last that we see that this weekend, but the drivers and mechanics will be warned. And this might be a turning point into the running of the weekend, because if you take a look at some of the names that we have at the back end of the grid, we're talking about favorites here. Cathal Clark, Sasha Van Bad Bosch, some of the fastest drivers in victory lane. We have Thibaut Ramakers holding on to P5 brilliantly, and that might be the result that could make a difference for Thibaut Ramakers as well as for Thomas Kinsey, 5 and 6 respectively. But when you see actually all the trouble that some of the closest rivals are going through into this race, this could be, of course, with a big if, the result that could put them in the lead in the battle for pole position for the superheat tomorrow. But we're not there yet, but certainly a big blow for some of the young drivers who were expecting to really get their hands on a strong result and maybe a win in the case of Van Bad Bosch and Cathal Clark. But as it comes to proper results, Thibaut Ramakers and Thomas Kinsey might be the big winner in this one.
Yes, indeed. Again, karts stopping left, right and centre all over the place here as they just can't find the traction here. But your 4 drivers who are on the wet tyres, Eva Dorensen, Vilma Svan, Georges Nassar and Volta Berignou. And there's another kart going very slowly, the 76, that is slowly coming to a stop. That is Alaves, who is not going any further for victory lane. That kart is just conked out and is just going to pull to the side of the circuit. And is that, again, just maybe the setup, the water getting in somewhere, or? Yeah,
it might have to do with that, but you can feel the despair, fortunately, for the young driver who's going to have to retire. And there's a couple of them joining the list.
This was the start. Instantly you saw Vilma Svan here take the lead. No competition whatsoever. and just everyone else just scrapping to find. And you can see there Timo Rämäkä's on the inside, who clouted that inside curb, but then that inside curb, then look at the exit, you sweep right to the outside, and you're just in that danger zone of just going that little too far and then getting a wheel on the grass. Then it all kicked off. That was Sascha van Bad Bosch going off the circuit. Rämäkä's again taking that inside line. This was where we saw the incident here, the number 60 off the track.
Dugarade.
Yeah, Dugarade, yeah, that was not the one you wanted. And again, Sandro Perez, again, you can see there, you saw Sandro Perez like really leaned into the corner, putting all that weight to your advantage. You know, you lean your head over to try and get any traction whatsoever, but unfortunately just sliding around. And again, you can just see karts in the live pictures going around. Often round there was the 31. That is Austin Gale for Crop Promotion. Last lap board is out though for this driver here, Eva Dorensen, who is, well, yeah, solid race, and we'll be happy with this one. Started this race in P15, leads the way by 4.6 seconds from the other drivers who are on the wet tyres, Vilma Svan, Roger Nassar and Wouter Berenguer. And just think, solid drive, we'll be happy with that one. Bring home the, well, not bring home the points. 0 points for a race win in the qualifying heats, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. As always from last season, unlike what we've seen in the fire karting competition, the 46 is dropping. This is the donker from Victor Lerain. Unfortunately, if he's able to complete that race, this won't count as DNF. But Eva Dorensen, we're waiting for the checkered flag. There he comes, and his best opportunity to pick up a win this weekend for P15 on the grid. And it was a class act on wet tires from Eva Dorensen, taking the win from Vilma Svan and George Nassar, as well as Berganu down in P4. But Thomas Kinsey, Tibor Rämäkärs on slick tires in those atrocious conditions were able to stay where they were for the entirety of the race. And unlike Sascha van Bad Bosch and Carl Clark, two of the closest rivals in the chase for the win, they were able to pick some strong results that might make a difference in the end.
Yes, indeed. So there's your winner. Eva Dorensen, after 8 laps, makes their way back into the pit lane. And we'll be happy with that one for the Falcon Racing team. I suspect a big smile on the face, the right call to make. But I suspect for the rest of the drivers, we won't have a worry, because I think the entire grid in the next one will be on the wet tyres. The rain has come down, and I suspect it's here to stay now for the remainder of the day. I see no clear sky in sight. It's just a thin layer of rain all the way round. So a very interesting day, a very wet day indeed. But Eva Dorensen will take the win from Vilma Svan, George Nassar and Wouter Berenguer, the 4 drivers who finished that race on the wet tyres. Thomas Kinsey took the win in the slick tyres effectively, but finishing 5th overall from Timo Rämäkä's, Matteo Davignon and Louis Kuman, who round out the top 8 from Bertram Sasha, Isaac Phelps, Austin Gale from Joseph Smith, Sascha van Bad Bosch, Arthur de Donker and Zach Green rounding out the 15, all a couple of laps down. Matt Corby, Clovis Nugarade, Eleves and Sandro Perez. Cathal Clark rounds out the field then after several retirements of drivers unable to get their karts back onto the circuit. I suspect the recovery